Issa Nibras Farooque is a software engineer, but he leads a Clark Kent Superman life because he's also a prolific musician and he goes by the stage name of the Farooque Bhai Project. Farooque Bhai hails from a family of musicians and changemakers, so he's always had a fair bit of music in him growing up. It was no different throughout his teens and his uni days when he started jamming and playing with various bands and discovering new sounds. But it wasn't until exploring SoundCloud and releasing his first EP a few years ago that he started finding his niche community. Now, I've known Farooque Bhai for a while now, and we've worked together on a few creative projects over the years, including his latest EP launch a few years back and also a few music videos. So in this episode we talk about his journey, his foray into different music genres, and how he brings professionalism to his creative crafts, and also his new EP which drops this week. Now, just a bit of warning, season 3 will be a bit different. Actually, it will be a lot different because I haven't been traveling for obvious reasons. Therefore, I've done the entire season remotely. Now, there's some good parts to it because I can speak and cover different creators around the world, but that also means the quality of the audio and the video will suffer quite a bit. That hasn't deterred me from being excited about the season because I am covering a range of creators from a variety of different disciplines, including music, including creative writing, the world of fashion, the world of comedy, and so on. So, without further ado, here is the State of the Creators back at you with Season 3, Episode 1, featuring the Farooque Bhai Project. Hope you enjoy the show. This is the State of the Creators, a show about creative individuals who are on a quest to build something out of nothing. Do go way back. It's pretty crazy, like our own personal story. I think we can even do a whole podcast just around that, right? Like we have personal connections, we have mutual friends, we even worked on the launch, for EP Man United. Like this is just way too many things. But before we dive into any of those things, I know that the story about your music alias, it's because you wanted to commemorate your late father within that name. So what prompted it to start with? Like was it, what about choosing this name felt right to you?
Well, the best part is there was never any pressure in the sense that I'm in Waterloo in Canada, which is 2 hours, 1.5, 2 hours outside of Toronto. So who the hell will listen to Farooque Bhai Project? Like, there's no pressure of like I have to perform, I have to play, or someday people will listen to my music or anything. I started playing the ukulele. I knew 5 chords. I had lyrics that I had written at some point of my life, and that's it. Like I had no expectations, and like I always felt like everyone said like your dad was this, your dad was that, because he passed away early, and he was a hero. Like he was Bangladesh's first ever environmental lawyer, probably. He founded Bella, if anyone's familiar with Bangladesh Environmental Lawyers Association. So when he passed away, like from going to High Court to hanging his picture Dhaka University's law department, to like sitting on different like great people's laps and them telling me about my dad, and then throughout the rest of my life just hearing about how cool he was, how great he was, how he was the life of the party, how he could play tabla, harmonium, and was a kick-ass lawyer, wrote like 8 books and 67 articles or something. And he only had a span of 6 years before he passed away, from when he finished his PhD and started Bella to when he passed away. And I don't know how someone crammed all that into 6 years. And like, because I always felt he was ever present in our life. I chose that name, like, it was just because it was my dream that people would know me as Farooq Bhai. And that dream probably went as big as like, oh, 3 guys in Waterloo will call me Farooq Bhai. And like that's it. Like that was cool enough. Like if I ever have a child, son or daughter, if they choose the name Farooq Bhai and does something totally different, like they're like changing the game in origami in Bangladesh, whatever the hell they want to do, right? It's like or cricket kheltese or something. It's like if they choose the name, carry it on, like that would be the coolest thing, right? So for me, it was just that. It was like I'm just want to be known as Farooq Bhai, and regardless of whether I'm playing to two people or like pack shows. Like that was the aim. আর কোনো
Being the
pressure?
best
There's no
in
pressure.
being
Yeah.
the best in origami in Bangladesh is oddly very specific. So uh, I don't know where that came from. We're doing origami before the call. I don't know. We don't have to go into that. But for anyone who's unfamiliar with your work, who is Issa Nibras Farooque?
Hmm. Who's Issa Nibras Farooque? Issa Nibras Farooque is a guy who's a software engineer, my son, my husband, a brother, my friend, and a musician. A guy who likes to collect watches, loves geography, loves to throw like geography facts at people. Like last night, I met this guy. I was like, "Oh, what's your name?" And he's like, "Yada yada yada." I was like, "Are you from Bangladesh?" He's like, "No, I'm actually from Indonesia." I was like, "Wow, that's so cool. You're like the fourth biggest population in the world. There's more than 16,000 islands that make up Indonesia. It's the world's biggest Muslim country, and it's the only country outside of India where natural or like outside of India where without our Desi roots or brown people, you actually have Hindus in Jakarta, sorry, in Java, the island, or
Wow.
Java, whatever they say. Yeah, they have natural Hindus because the migration of Hindu kings from India to Indonesia. Also, Jakarta is sinking, so they're trying to go to a different island and make a new capital there. So, like, that's me. Like, that's Isani Ibras Farooq. Like, I can talk to you about
Bro, that's
watches.
that's some mad facts. Like, like, how did it all start? Because I know you do have an uncle who was a prominent, who is a prominent musician from in Bangladesh in the '90s, and somehow we are also related to that specific person, which we found out years or months after having spoken to each other online, and then slowly realizing, hey, we are related. But beyond that, I think you just mentioned, your father was quite musical as well, from what it seemed. But were those the two main figures in your early life that kind of pushed you towards music? Because I know you have been playing music since you were 6.
Yeah, so what happened was like my dad saw that I loved Bob Marley, so he would play Bob Marley a lot. He used to listen to Bob Marley and stuff. He'd plug me to the mic and we just sing and like I just Buffalo Soldier, and then when I was 6, my parents were like, okay, this is our eldest child, this is our guinea pig, our science experiment. Let's put him through everything. So they put me into art school, music school, Quran studies, cricket coaching. So they put me into everything. Like when he grows up, he has all the tools and he can pick and choose. I hated music school, absolutely. Like, and then when I was 12, I stood up to my mom and I said, like, yo, I'm an adult now. I'm an adult. I'm 12. Look at this, like, beard. I decided we are going to quit music school and you can't force me anymore. My mom was like, okay, go. And like every year they used to tell me at music school, Jay, if you do it better next year, we're gonna make you pass. Because we see talent, but we see that you do zero practice. And like, I didn't as much as I love like um as much as I love Bob Marley and stuff as a kid, at the same time I didn't want to just sit at home and be like, pamaga de sanita panita pamaga rega rega maga maga manani sanita ni sanita sanita sagare sanita pamaga de sa like এখন cool লাগে. I feel cool doing
Yeah,
this now, but
yeah.
like, it wasn't what I liked at all. I was like, what am I doing? I should be and my parents put me into school, music school, saying like I'm gonna learn Bob Marley. That was the
Oh, the
bait
the,
they
the, the
threw in front of
classic.
me, and they put me in
Yeah.
Rovindo Songit.
So at what point did that, I guess, dislike for music turned into something that you realized that, you know what, I'm actually pretty decent at this stuff and I'm enjoying this stuff.
I never thought I was decent actually, but like at least not till my mid 20s when I like one
And you
day I
realized,
watched one video and I was like, man, I'm good now, damn. But like if for till I was 23, like I never thought I was decent. And I think a multitude of things happened leading up to why I started liking music. I started so the first Bangla mixed album that I had was Onushilon. That time I got really fascinated that like okay the stuff I'm watching from like Creed and Linkin Park, these things someone's doing it in Bangla, wow. So that's when I started to be like, oh, like honestly at 15 one of my friends gave me at this my math tutor's place. They gave me this CD, and he was like, "Yo, listen to this, pretty cool." And that was Pabon Das with Sam Mills, the album with Dilki Doya, Nacho
Oh man,
Kali,
that was such a
Bosundhara'r Buke,
good, yeah.
Ore Poinka, Mon Fokira. Like these are like my favorite tracks. Like so many good tracks in that album. That album was like when I was like, I want to be a singer. Even if it's just like a singer who just sings, like opens a show someday, like 10 years
Mm,
later, whatever. I just want to sing. I just want to practice singing.
right.
So that album was like, I was like, I want to be a lalon singer and a baul singer, and a baul singer. So at that point, I was like, that's my calling. I just want to be a baul singer. And then a couple years later, my friends had this band called Synopsis in Bangladesh, the
Yeah,
Scholastica band. And I used to go to their jams and I'd be fascinated by Jamshed Bhai from Power Surge. He was a part of this band. I was like,
right.
man, being a frontman is so much fun. I wish I could be a frontman. Being on stage, having all
Mm,
these people dance to your tracks, singing along, it's so cool. So that was another big uh, driver. And the third biggest one I would say is when I actually saw, like, obviously a lot of people in the band scene, but when I actually went to youth club to see my friends at a concert like Synopsis, uh I was making fun of this band that was getting on stage. It was like Ajo, and the name is Ajo. What
oh,
a lame name. What a lame band. And like I'm this like bratty 17-year-old, right? I'm like I'm gonna say some like
like smart ass
I'm
chick.
gonna make some smart ass comments, and my friends are gonna laugh and like brownie points. But they got on stage and like লাবিক বাজে ওই আমার চোখের পানি বলমানে না রে, and I'm like, oh my God, there is a Pawan Das in Bangladesh. And like, and that was it. I was like, that's the old guy I want to be like in this form. Like this is
Mm,
my calling, and like I want to be a baul lalon singer. And then there's
right.
another side where like I try to sing all the underground songs, like mimicking John's voice, Tasan's voice and stuff. Like I think that's when that's where the love for music stemmed from. And I think when I
Right.
moved to university, Waterloo first year when I was 19, that's when my friends from Synopsis, or my friend Riyadad, who's the guitarist of Synopsis, he didn't have any vocals to jam with. So he's like, "Do you want to start singing? I know you always wanted to sing." Like so that's how it started, and I just never looked back. It's like it's
Yeah.
this is a work of like one day at a time, really. Like, it
Yeah,
wasn't
it's
any
not like
master plan or
it was
anything.
always like it's like layers of kind of little push for
Yeah.
you to get into music. But before we dive deeper into the music
Hmm.
side of things, as you mentioned, you are a software engineer, so you've got that Clark Kent thing going on where you're on the daytime you're fixing things, you're engineering things, you're doing data analytics and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff, and then you're kind of wearing that suit at night and looking for creative inspiration. So what's the dual life like? And I think this is something a lot of creatives, especially in this era where they do have this one side where they want to explore themselves, express themselves, and this other side where they were either on that path on the side always, and that pays the bills.
Yeah.
And it's always kind of being in the middle. What what is it like that for you? Because now you're kind of taking music quite seriously
Right.
as you've gotten bigger over the last few years, but you're still kind of doing that other side of things. What's it like?
I love it. I didn't always love it, and I did it because it was going to give me a secure future. I was good in math. I was good at school. I was always good at school. And I was an electrical engineer by trade, but because of internships, well, as we call it in Waterloo, co-ops, I ended up coming into the software field because that's where more younger people get hired for internships. Yeah, like especially if you come from electrical background, the good thing is you're kind of like the jack of all trades, but ওইটাই মানে once you get into an internship, that comes into your resume, and that kind of decides the landscape of your future to a certain extent, unless you want to make a parallel or lateral move, right? So for me, it was something I did. It paid the bills. I got to go to places, be like, oh, I graduate from Waterloo. It's like Canada's MIT, this and that. Like, I got to feel good about myself and all of that. And it was never something I did because I like it. But I think over the last couple years, I really started enjoying it. Like,
Right.
I've always been working with databases. And a couple years ago, took the opportunity to work on data governance. The best part is I get to do a lot of research. I get to implement different things. I get to be non-tech if I and tech at the same time. So I really enjoy doing that. I feel like intelligence for me is being able to transfer your skills from different things in life that people might not think have an intersect.
Right.
Because
Which
for
this is a prime example. Like, who would think, like
Yeah, but
doing policies for data and then overlapping on music.
absolutely, but like, there's so much overlap over these things, right? Like, I make songs. I intentionally don't make 5 minute long songs. My songs are between 2.5 to 4.5 minutes. My longest songs are 4.5 minutes, and still I'm trying to trim them. 1990, I left out a whole verse.
Wow.
Yeah, because it was getting too long. Because at the end of the day, I have to think of it myself. I can't just be like, oh, I made this. I can't believe I made this. I think of it objectively that if there's so many people who send me songs, right? As soon as I listen to 3.5, 4 minutes, I'll skip the song. So why the only reason I listen to 6 minutes of this is because it's my song. Or else I never listen to it. So I have to keep that in mind. So that retention of people's attention is something that's very important in music. And anyone who's also making PowerPoints at work has to keep the same thing in mind. Like an effective PowerPoint is the one which is just the perfect amount of information that's
Mm.
digestible, that you'll actually have your mind on towards and you can focus on and like you can actually learn something from instead of a 40 slide like PowerPoint, right? So that is something that's very transferable. And like the other thing is like say you and I, we're very big Manchester United fans. So I grew up like idolizing Sir Alex Ferguson. He was like, you know how Eric Cartman has this dad on TV?
Mm.
Sir Alex Ferguson was like my dad on TV for me. Like that was my father figure. That's the guy I wanted to follow. That's the guy I wanted to be
Yeah.
like. Like sometimes I used to think of the moment I'll meet Sir Alex Ferguson and just tear up with the emotions
Yeah.
of like
Same. Same.
and of
Same.
like just my imagination,
Yeah. Yeah.
like just seeing this person in my imagination, like, oh, I'm getting to meet him, shake his hand, I would tear up. So, the way he used to manage a team, like for me, it relates to soccer. The strategies, his long-sighted thinking, short-sighted thinking, bringing the best out of people, knowing,
Mm.
who you have to be tough with, who needs like some arm around the shoulders. These things, when you're working and when you're collaborating with people at work, the same rules apply. So there's so many things that overlap between from discipline to discipline, and I think again my work life, coming back to that, gives me the discipline that I need towards music too. It teaches me to be a lot more patient about things. It teaches me like you have to work hard to get things done because I feel like work ethic isn't there within everyone in the music scene. Like for real, the more people I get to meet,
So
work
true.
ethic,
So true.
manushe calm, deadlines miss, like people miss deadlines a lot, and
I think
they'll
it's
have an
in most creative fields, not just music. Like in most creative fields,
yeah, people miss
having a
deadlines and
lack
like
of.
they have like their reasons. Like they'll be like, hey, this happened, that happened, that happened. But in a workplace scenario,
You can't do that.
I can do that like once, twice, and then they'll fire me, right?
Yeah.
So and like that kind of professionalism that being at a workplace gives you, like there's so much that I carry on to music as well.
Mm.
Even like the fact that I break down music, like retention, this, that, like reverse engineering things. Like I'm engineering things at work, and that kind of analytical thinking also helps me break down like the songs I love. What do I love about it? What is
I
there?
think
What
yeah.
kind of instruments are playing? What kind of
I think
textures, timbres, and all of that, right?
if given the opportunity, would you be a full time musician and let go of that life completely?
No, no,
Wow. Wow. That's
no. I would
incredible.
have it in some capacity because honestly, music
That
helps
is
me.
incredible.
No, music helps me to forget. like, work pressure. But when I go to Bangladesh, I work 15, 16 hours a day,
Mm.
on just music. My mom
Yeah.
doesn't see me, my family doesn't get to see me, nothing. I just work on music like a madman. And
As you
there's
did a few weeks back.
yeah, and it was so liberating to come back and get to work again. It was a different, it was the reverse for the first time. And honestly, I don't, I think apart from my family, there's nothing I love more than music, for
Mm.
sure. There's that aspect. But also being a musician is a lot like an athlete. Like when I'm 50 years old and I'm coming up with new albums, people would be like, "Oh, it's so I appreciate it, but bhai, just like sing Shokaleo, please." That's what happens. And a musician's like an athlete. You have your prime, you try to stay in it as long as you can, or as long as people decide you can, and you'll always keep making music, but at one point my prime time will be gone, just like an athlete. And this limelight wouldn't be the same. There's always going to be a limelight for sure. There's going to be you at 50 who's going to come to me at 50, be like, Farooque Bhai, remember our
Yeah,
30s?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. That's such a cool insight, man. Because a lot of the times, a lot of the creatives, including myself, like we kind of fantasize this creative world that if only I could do this full time. But I think the moment a lot of the creative stuff becomes, quote unquote work, you don't enjoy, because it's not just the one aspect of being a professional that's in that discipline, right? Like when you're a musician, like as you're right now, it's not just about you singing and making songs, especially as an independent creator,
Mm.
because now you have to think about, I have to think about the marketing and the budget and networking with people and producers and the artwork and collaborating and music videos. And so those are the stuff that you kind of start hating, not hating, but disliking, or not at the same level as the creative elements, right? So I think doing that full time, obviously, because actually, what would you say is the percentage of you creating music versus you distributing music? Like what would be the ratio?
30/70, 30 music, 70 distribution. And
Incredible, isn't that?
and honestly, I don't enjoy that part at all. But like, I also
But you
do.
have to do it. Like you have
I
to be on socials. You have to put stories. You have to do polls on Instagram stories to get that thing up. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah, man, it's so hard. And like even making music videos and stuff, I wish like I could just show up and give people what I want, and then show up another day, sit on a makeup chair, get the makeup done, and just act. That would be cool. I like that. I like making the music. I like thinking about who the producer is gonna be. I don't know.
I'm
I'm
sure you like
probably gonna.
performing as well, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I love performing. But we tell you, one of the logistics of an independent musician often sadly makes or breaks whether you will be something or not. Like that's why I said 30/70, because I think importance wise it's the same too. Like if my music has been out there for many years now, like you
Yeah.
know that, right? And
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Of
and like
course,
just
man.
and it was 100 music. And no one knew me. I used to joke like there's two lanes in Bonani where people listen to me. That's it.
And then
That was such
one crowd
this is
on SoundCloud, and that's where I found you because I used to be quite active on SoundCloud, and I
yeah,
remember you used to post a lot of those folk covers and a few of your originals here and there.
yeah,
I remember we used to like comment each other on each other's because I used to do a lot of covers back
yeah,
then. But we didn't know each other then. But it was only after going back after we've known each other and worked and stuff, like only a few years ago. It's like, oh wait, Farouk actually commented on one of my covers, and I used to. So I think SoundCloud, you had a bit of a reasonable following, but it's still true that you've been on SoundCloud for like what 8, 9, 10 years at least.
yeah. And like honestly, if I even quantify SoundCloud, like 400 people knew me.
Yeah, yeah,
It's nothing,
exactly.
right? It's
No,
nothing.
no,
It's
in the
like
grand scheme
it's
of
the
things.
it's like Bangladesh. If you look at Bangladesh, it's like three for four floors of an apartment building.
Yeah,
That's the amount of people that know
in
me,
some ways,
right?
yeah.
It's like that's the amount of people that know me. But Uta, if you wanna get your stuff out there, regardless of quality, it's like you need to know all these things. And
Yeah, yeah.
I think I think it. it's sad that you do, but it's the reality again.
The thing is, if, like say, if we didn't have that aspect, do you think you would have been the artist you are today?
Well, the music would be the same. I would be the
Of
same.
course. But
I
in terms
think
of you being as exposed to the crowd that you've built,
honestly, like the only difference would have been like my expression of music or who I am would have propagated to a much smaller crowd, right?
right?
But
Because it's
otherwise,
interesting, right? Because it's
yeah,
like previously we had gatekeepers, right? If if we didn't have social media and all that kind of stuff, you'd probably be trying your level best to get into some sort of a big record label or get a spot at a radio show, get a producer of some sort to play your music at a certain
yeah.
crowd, and then they'll see that okay, he's good, and then we'll push him up in like a music video that'll air on the TV. But now, like that is so much harder than, I guess, building a following, which in itself is quite hard in itself. But when you do the comparison, so I think in some ways it's great that you have that ability, but then, like you said, the importance of that is still 70/30. Like 70% is that you got to show up on socials, on distribution, on being professional, on doing all these things, and then this 30% is the creative element that you actually enjoy, which is, I don't know. I think we're going through an evolution, isn't it? That's what I feel like. It's an evolution of being a creator across all levels.
Absolutely. You're like being a creator and being an entrepreneur is the same thing, honestly.
Dude,
At
you've
least,
hit the nail. You've hit the nail.
it's the same thing. It's like this is my startup, really. Farooque Bhai Project is my startup. I need to do the things to raise funds, to invest in the right places. Like money comes into Farooque Bhai Project. I don't use that money to buy my Rolex. Like Farooque Bhai Project, money goes
Goes back in.
back into Farooque Bhai Project again, right? I don't pay myself for Farooque Bhai Project. Whatever I make, it just goes back in. So it's my startup. I look at it that way. And just like any other company, if it's a revenue generating company, all these things would need to be done.
Yeah,
Even if you're a company that makes soybean oil, you need a social media guy,
yeah, yeah.
in
Absolutely.
2022.
You don't need a
So
whole in-house media
yeah,
team. So you moved to Canada when you're 19. You mentioned 18, 19.
yeah,
That's kind of similar to the age I moved here as well. So I'm guessing it's like what 10 plus years that you've been away from Bangladesh.
yeah.
Pretty crazy. I think we are kind of on the same wavelength, right? Like I'm sure you feel the same. But what is it about quote unquote home or Bangladesh that made you think that I actually need to go back and do these shows, or I need to create songs that are more rooted towards Bangladesh and not a wider market in Canada, or more towards the city you live in.
And like honestly, from the first perspective, like the making of the music, that was just because like making music in Bangla, like writing English for all of us is easier. Like we
100%.
went to English medium schools. That was the life our parents chose for us. And we complied, and I'm very grateful for that, to be able to afford it in a place like Bangladesh. And like writing English is easier for us than writing Bangla. But in Bangla there's so many gaps in terms of the sound, that there was like, I always say that I make the music I want to listen to, and there were so many gaps. So I was like, I was listening to, say, a lot of Damien Rice at one point, and that kind of heavy hitting lyrics and stuff, singer songwriter, is only Haidar Hussain. And 10 years ago, you find Anjan Dotto. At least from my understanding, uh, like I just wanted to go do something that I want to listen to and no one's making, so I'm just gonna make it. And same thing with Jinbut Tonic. Same thing happened with like Kamina. It's like I love Bangla, but I need more trap. It's not coming up. I'm just gonna make it. I love Afropop. I love Burna Boy. On the Low is my favorite track. Angelina.
So good.
And I was like, I need to make Afropop, and I made Duita Dekhi. Right? It was a lot like that. It was Bangla music. There was all these spaces to do things for the first time, and like regardless of revenues, regardless of popularity, that in itself is so cool, right? To make this cultural impact even if it's
The-
just for yourself.
Yeah, like when you say, like there are these gaps with certain genres or certain sounds, like do you approach the songs thinking that, oh, here's a gap, and I'm gonna fill it, or is it more like, hey, I enjoy Afropop, and there's a gap in Afropop in Bangladesh, and I'm just in the middle of that Venn diagram, like, or for example, now you're working on a new EP, right? So are you thinking that, oh, Bangladesh doesn't have, I don't know, Slovakian urban pop or something, right? And I'm gonna make it, or does it have to have some sort of your own kind of passion, liking towards it, or and as well as the trend, the like what's on the top charts that people are listening to,
Nah. I think when I say I see a gap, the gap might not even exist. It might just be a gap in my knowledge of something
right?
that exists that I don't know about.
Which is true. Which is
The
true.
gap
Yeah.
is, yeah, like the gap is honestly, I want to listen to it. I can't find it. I need it. Because
Right.
I'm not trying to cater to the trend. Because there's a lot of things that are in the trend that I don't like and I don't make it. Like it's always me first. Like, because so many people out there listening to the music now more than ever, right? I can never, ever, ever, ever in a billion years please everyone. So,
So
but
true.
one thing is for sure, like I can please myself. And if I leave it at like this song should derive pleasure for me, like that is the only thing I can do, right?
And then
Don't
these paths didn't exist before either. So like a lot of the songs that you made, especially for the latest EP, which is Gene Plutonic, the types of sounds, definitely very much new, at least to our knowledge, as you keep saying, in the scene. So was it more that you wanted to listen to these sounds in Bangla that made you forge these paths?
absolutely 100%. Like that's hit the nail in the head. That's yeah, nothing even to add in there.
So where in terms of being present in Canada adds to the story? Like, do you ever see yourself taking a step back and representing Bangladesh in a way that's more grounded in that market rather than in Bangladesh market?
Yeah, like going back to what else you asked, and there would be a nice segue, is like why go back to Bangladesh is because of the love of the people. It exists in a completely different dimension than it does in Canada. Like within Bangladeshis, yes, but like in general, like the love of people exists and like people's humility apart from some people, exist in such a মানে, it's on a different dimension altogether. Like people, how open big people's hearts are, how open their arms are. Like it's crazy. Sorry. And then if I see my crowd, like my crowd was totally like I'm gonna cater to the Toronto Bengali market. Like that was
Right.
my dream. And then someday, if I can have a song in a mixed album or something, that'd be cool. That'd be the coolest thing. Right. Or like I'd do covers of bands and then send a huge essay to like the vocalist of the band. Like, and then at the end be like, Bhai, this is our humble attempt, you know.
The
Do
typical.
stuff like that. Yeah, like do stuff like that. Like, we all grew up doing the same hustle,
Yeah.
and then yeah, I'm always I love calling Canada my home and I love it here, and I love like, but I love Bangladesh a lot. That's my foundations. That's where I was born. I was raised. Took my wife there to see all of that, and I would love to even come back and stay in Bangladesh, but it wouldn't just be for music. If I do, it's because I'm doing something on the software field and I'm
Wow.
doing music. Like, it has to be both. Like, I
Wow.
just can't just work one side of my brain and shut the other one off, right?
Awesome.
That's
So
yeah.
so so I guess going global through the Canadian market is probably not something you're looking at the immediate future.
No, I would love to go global. Say, my Pakistani fan base has really gone up in the last 1 year. Like,
Yeah,
there's more than
especially after
500
that
people.
Twitch
Yeah, yeah. Now
YouTube.
there's more than 500 monthly listeners from Pakistan. There is more than 3,000 from
Their music
India.
scene's on a whole other wavelength.
Oh, I
Incredible,
love
man.
them. I love
Yeah,
them,
yeah.
man. It's so good.
I was just
Especially
listening
that
to Rouge Aftab. Like she's
Aruj
the
Aftab. Oh, man,
man,
she's so
amazing. I
good.
was just listening to her NPR Tiny Desk. Just blew me away. Incredible,
So good.
incredible
I
stuff.
think she went to Berklee School of Music too.
Oh
I think
wow.
when I discovered her, she was a singer-songwriter, and so technical yet so
And
soulful.
similar story to you and us, I guess. Like I think she moved when she was, well, a little bit earlier than us, but I think that growing up with roots in a different country. Um, so I guess my question was kind of in line to that. Like, do you see yourself being something like that, where you have that connection, but you're also representing in a global stage? You know,
Oh, of course, that would be like this is already so much more than I ever dreamt of. But
right?
now that it's going on, I like human wants are infinite.
Like,
So
dude, like
my aim would be
honestly,
to spread and like right,
yeah, like
like
I see the potential. Like, and I'm not saying this as a brother or a fan or anything like that. So, Shuno Please to me is one of the most well thought out, definitely the most innovative Bangla song I've heard in years. In years, like not even
thank you.
recently. And when I go through the depths of the layers that you've kind of put your work on a song like Shuno Please, it's yeah, I honestly think it. I don't want to go too crazy, but I think it should be bigger than the Bangladesh. But obviously, you're the artist. You know
Oh,
your art and
absolutely.
expression. But the other also amazing thing that I love is your choice of vocabulary. Right? It's the first album specifically. Almost I think is an experience just with the vocabulary, the unique words, even like the Hindi song, right? Would be Urdu or Hindi? I can't tell the
It's
difference.
it's it's like botched up Bangla Hindi, porta
And
hai khata hai type.
yeah, like it's and that's a lot of people would think of it as a joke song, but this botched up Hindi is like my older brother. He moved away from Bangladesh a long time ago, so he didn't have that indoctrination of Hindi as well as others. But he watches, Bollywood films every now and then. So when he tries to speak, that's how he speaks, right? And the way I see art is representation of these feelings, right? And so if I were to make a music about certain things in my life, they can be represented. So just seeing this representation of a Bangla version of Hindi in a song blew me away in ways that it shouldn't have. You know what I mean? Like it's a very straightforward song, but just
Yeah.
that it hits you in the face on that album, and it was incredible just to see. And it's such a well crafted melody. So why do you do that essentially? What part of your brain thinks, okay, you know what, I'm going to take that feeling, take that part of my childhood that I where I heard these terms of washed up and then bring it into a song.
I don't know. Like, everyone probably thinks like, oh, doesn't everyone's brain think that way? Like, like for me personally, like that's the first thing. Like, I feel like that's just how my brain thinks. Not every song's like that, but something like Chekta Bandar didn't go through many iterations from
Right.
like a Robindranath type lyrics that I've had to like make it more colloquial because that's what I want to listen to, right?
Yeah.
And that happens for some of my songs and songwriting there, but like in something like this, it's just that's just how my mind thinks, I guess. It just like
Yeah.
something like that, I wrote it in like 1 minute, the whole song,
Wow.
and it's like three chords that come one after the other. It's
Yeah.
like
It's a
E
simple melody.
minor, A, and D, and that's all. Like, and it's that's how my brain
And,
thinks,
and
I
and I think
guess.
that's why I loved your first album in a lot of ways, because a lot of the songs felt very straightforward, simple, and then there's other songs like Tumi Murko Farooque Bhai, right? It's in like the ending of the song is incredible. And why I bring that up is because your initial days, and you mentioned Pawan Dashbal and a lot of those elements. Your first album had a lot of folk spiritual influence. Even the lyrics, some of the songs are very hard hitting,
Hmm.
very rebellious at times. And then you switched it up in your EP for Gene Tonic, where it's very diverse. It's very uh, easy listening compared to the first. Why that switch up?
Very good question, man. So. after the quote unquote success of Abusta Buje Bebusta, I was like, okay, this is my niche. This is what I need to do. I wrote 3 songs, goes perfectly as like the follow-up of Abusta Buje Bebusta. This is catering to my fans. For me, like personally, I keep bringing this up, but like actually it meant a lot that Dio Bhai was my fan. And he said it was one of the best Bangla albums in the last decade. So
Wow.
every time I'd somehow have him at the back of my mind. I don't know, nothing to do with him. I just had him at the back of my mind, like, what would he think? Like, oh my God, this, that, like, there's so many more. I can do so much. This is my potential, this and that. And I started writing this EP, and the name of that EP was supposed to be Prithibi Shobche Sundor Gan. Now I'm probably gonna still release it at 40. I was thinking yesterday. I think I should release it at 40. The EP's name was Prithibi Shobche Sundor Gan, and it had 3 songs. একটার নাম ছিল কাঞ্চনজঙ্ঘা আর বাকি দুইটা জাস্ট গান ছিল কিন্তু নাম ছিল না বাট গান দুটো রেডি ছিল and I had the whole EP made মাথায় written down lyrics and everything and then it hit me. I'm like, man, I don't even listen to this shit anymore. Like, when was the last time I listened to like Damien Rice? When was the last time I listened to any of this shit? Like, what am I doing? I'm just like catering to what other people might want, what my fans are. Where am I gonna get the guaranteed applause? And literally, what is my ease? I'm a gun to make songs. What is the easiest thing for me to do? Like, what am I used to? What is my comfort zone? It's just sitting in my comfort zone and making all these songs that if it was someone else, I would just be like, ah, অবস্থা বুঝে ব্যবস্থা নকল. I don't want to listen to this shit. Like, it was just because it was me, I was like in that tunnel vision, like, oh, I have to do this. No, I'm an indie, so you can't sell out if you're indie.
Yeah.
But in one way, I was honestly just selling out as an indie artist by making something that I wouldn't listen to if it was someone else's music. That's not plugging a gap. When I made the first time, I felt like I plugged a gap. This time, all I'm doing is just like trying to cater to other people. Like Dio Van Namta Bullam, because I would think of him when I used to write songs.
Yes.
But like, it's so many people too at that point. It's like, oh, I need to give them the next Shokaleo, this, that. And then I was like, okay, so if I don't want to listen to it, and I'm being honest with myself, the first thing I need is bravery to be able to throw out a year's worth of work to write these 3 songs. And the next part is, okay, then what do I listen to? Huge, 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 like became a huge bossa nova fan from Abusta Buje Babusta to when I started writing Jinbut Tonic. That comes into Shuno Please.
Yes.
Became a huge Burna Boy fan, Wizkid fan. That comes into Duita Dekhi. Had this cool lyrics that I'd written for a long time for 1990. And that for me was like, the sound wise, what I was chasing is there was this song that I love called Funk by Jay Statting and Pav Daria, Punjabi song.
Right.
And I listened to it, listened to the music. I was like, man, I want to make a song like this. And like Unishonobe was the perfect lyrics that I had written. And then that was really inspired by what I listened to there. And then I was listening to a lot of Migos, like religiously. So that's where Kamina came from. So মানে ওইটাই মানে all I was doing in the first album and what I was doing in the second album is the exact same thing. Uh, except for the second album, I had to change up my songwriting process. So I don't even know the chords of most of my songs. I was just like, by then, I had really realized the power of a studio and what can be done in a studio with my producer. His powers, my Bengali friends, what I can do in a
And you
studio.
can tell.
I
You
was
can tell by the quality of the 2 albums.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. The first one, it was like walking into the dark. Never been in a studio before that day in my life. And then second time, I knew what I can do, what the potential is. I don't have to write acoustic tracks. I can just make exactly what I want to make. All I have to do is be able to articulate my like what I'm chasing in my brain. And it came out so nicely, thanks to everyone involved. And
And then
yeah,
you
like
could kind
I
of
was doing the same thing, like for both the
you
albums.
could kind of feel some of the seeds of Jin Tonic in that first album, because you've got that, as I mentioned, the Tumi Muka Farooque Bhai's ending had such a big electronic presence. It's almost like how Cryptic Fate changed their sound from Shrestha to to Danov, right? And in the middle they had this singles phase of Prem and
Prem,
Another
yeah,
Shantan and
another Shantan.
Gontampo. Gontampo was the other one. But yeah, like those songs were this transitionary phase into Danov, and I think it was very similar for you as well, where you had these little pieces, even though it was very strictly folk influenced,
Yeah.
and then we got it. So pretty psyched to see what you'll come up with. With another thing that I've noticed is that you're widely collaborative. I mean, the fact that I was part of the launch and I worked on the Kamina music video along with Rubab and a few others. You had like different artists for different videos. Even now, you're working with like all these different areas where you're trying to collaborate. Like, why this collaborative approach?
We have such a diverse, talented pool of people we, that are Bengali or Bangladeshi or just simply my friends. And like not tapping into that, I think would be a shame. So, the power of the collective is always greater than the power of one. As long as I'm in the chair and I can be the one driving at least which way the vision would go. Sometimes I drive the whole vision. Sometimes I just try to like steer the ship a little bit towards what I want. And but I love doing that. I love collaborating. Uh, I just love, knowledge and tapping into people's talents to make something better than it can be otherwise. Right.
Right. And do you foresee yourself kind of getting into collaborative songwriting practices as well? No, that's something you want to keep very personal to yourself.
I think like if people can analyze my stuff and they can try to figure out what I do and do it, and that would be very flattering for me. Uh, but yeah, man, I think I have my own songwriting structure. A lot of people offer me lyrics. Like, I think I wrote this Farooque Bhai type lyrics you might enjoy. No, it's not for me. Like, I straight up tell them, like, for me, writing the lyrics is like,
Something you
I
enjoy.
think I think that's the soul of my songs
Yeah,
is the lyrics.
I agree.
Like,
I agree. I agree.
and I just never used anyone's lyrics. I never want to. I use my friends from time to time for like a line here, a line there, or like someone would give me an idea and I would use that.
The ad
But
libs,
like
man. The ad libs are
ad
fantastic.
libs, Shabab, Sakib Shabab, the ad libs, that was all him.
Good,
And
brilliant. Added a different
brilliant guy.
layer to it, and I think that's where the collaborative things kind of brought was seen, and I think even the musicians who helped make the record on the EP, I think you could tell that they added their own personality. Like Michal's, playing. I've known him and heard him, and I could kind of hear it in certain ways. So it's pretty awesome to see that you're kind of collaborating in these different areas. Kind of going away from to more general kind of stuff is what is a quality song to you?
Such a good question. What is a quality song to me? I don't know, something I vibe with. Uh, Sometimes it's, I don't think there's any such thing as quality, per se, because it can be, there's so many factors. Sometimes it can be, because of the musicality, or sometimes it can be because of the total lack of it. Sometimes it could be the catchy hook or a catchy bass line. But at the end of the day, the music I would go back to, and I think anyone goes back to, is because in one way or another, you want to listen to it again, or a part of it gets stuck in your head, and you're like, I need to get this out by listening to it. Or you're like washing your dishes and you're like, "Shakalu, you know, it's. I think that's quality music for me. Something that gets stuck in my head,
Right.
and then it, what gets stuck in your head varies from person to person.
Right. On chocolate though, it has it started getting annoying for you with people requesting you to play the song yet?
Not yet,
Not
no.
yet.
I love it. I love it because everyone sings along. Like I when I wrote it and when I released it, I never realized like it's a very singable song. I just
Yeah.
released it because I made it and then I liked it. But like yeah, it's like it's easy to remember and everyone sings along. And it's like my favorite part is when I'm performing it live and then the second time I do Shokalo Kalo and then the crowd would go like Kalo
Too
Tumar
much.
Shokal.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that gives me so much joy, man. I can't even explain that. But like
Beautiful.
yeah, man, it
Oh,
can
cool.
get
Just thought because I think a lot of artists do get I think maybe after a longer span of I don't know 5, 10, 15 years of doing the same thing over and over, they might start feeling a little bit like they start looking at their songs as their products and not their babies. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Just something on the catalog. But what's the hardest thing about making music?
the logistics.
Right. What we spoke
Absolutely. The
about.
music comes very easy to me.
Right.
The logistics around like marketing, music video and stuff.
So on that note, making money as a musician has always been talked about. It's been difficult, and even though the modern tech is promised to have some solution in terms of being more exposed, it still hasn't solved that inherent issue of making a livable wage or salary as a musician. How much of that do you think has impacted you in terms of making music, and do you think it's you can continue the way you are without making it a full-time thing?
Making it full time would be very hard because one of the things I did over the since over the last 2 years is I've set a price tag on myself. And if someone is putting me in a collaboration, or if someone is calling me for their wedding, or if someone's putting up a show with me, just realize these guys are paying a lot of money. Like, I don't come for cheap. Like, I put a very almost irrational, I won't say irrational, I'm very good. I put a very high price tag on myself. Like, there's no reason why I should be charging as much as, say, Dasan or something. But
Sure.
I do. I'd rather perform less, have my brand. Part of my project is my brand too. And this is what I want to work with. Otherwise, I just wouldn't sing a song for a year publicly, and that's completely fine with me. As long as me, I make music for myself. I enjoy that. And like, if I'm playing live, or if you want me at your Holud, like, you have to, like, people should know that you paid a lot of money to get me there.
Yeah, and I think
And that what really helps there is the fact that I have a day job. So it's not like this has been a bad month for me. Music's my only source of income. I'm just gonna take whatever show I find. So having a day job helps with the quality control. I don't have a problem not playing. I'm not losing anything, but this is my rate. This is what I want to get paid. If you're sponsoring me, this is the amount of money I want, or else no sponsorship. That's fine. And you know that perspective, like I am setting my own price, and with even a Bangladesh, doing a field-time musician wouldn't allow me to do that. But I'd rather keep the exclusivity, and that I find that cool. Like, I'm wearing something from Kit Cudi. Like
yeah,
they do this kind of stuff. Kanye did a lot of that with his branding and
and
everything.
he's
Like you
releasing
need,
Donda 2 on STEM, so
yeah, like you need to have your exclusivity. You need to have your stuff. Fans would be like, "Ba, amader ki hoilo? Ba, you're chasing money." No, none of that. I'm just making the same music I would have made.
yeah.
I love my fans, but I don't make music thinking of the fans. Like I make music for myself, and the fans are a nice byproduct, and I love them. And ওরা যদি নাও থাকে একদিন, I don't have an issue because like I feel like মানুষ when people's music taste and artists making music, it's like two rivers that meet. They will intersect at a certain point where I am giving you the music that you're looking for right now. In 5 years, I might be making something and you might be chasing something else. And you might not be my fan anymore. And that's completely fine too. I've done that with Radiohead myself,
Yeah.
right? Like I respect them, but I'm not looking forward to their releases anymore. Like that's not what I listen to. They still make dope music. So at the end of the day, like you can set your price, and you should like in Bangladesh. I one of the concerts, I was really pissed. We spoke about a certain ticket price and he decreased the ticket price. And that really pissed me off. I have my mad respects, but I don't think I'll play with him anymore for just for that reason. I have a one strike policy in life, by the way. Don't mess with me if you love me. But like, for me, not playing under 1,000 taka ticket was very important. Very, very, very
Yeah, because
important.
it sets an expectation.
Because honestly, like
Yeah,
as
for the
I
band.
don't want to devalue myself. Like if me and you, we go to Takeout Burger and we order two double beef cheeseburger, that will come to 1,000 taka. How is my performance not worth at least two burgers? Right? How am I of less value than two beef cheeseburgers? Right? It just like that makes
That
no
is an
sense to me.
incredible parallel. Like that is so true. That is so true.
And like honestly, like some people message me saying like, you don't think of the students. How will we afford 1,000 taka? You can afford 1,000 taka, save for 8 months. If you're
If you
really
value
poor, I
music that
understand.
much, yeah, I agree.
I grew up like having to fight with my mom for 5 taka for a somucha because like I lost my dad very early. So I had hardship and having real money. I went to Scholastica for free because my mom was a teacher, or else I wouldn't have been able to do that either once my dad passed away. But uite, mane, when kids here go to see Kanye, they save up for months
Yeah.
because Kanye doesn't do a $20 student ticket, and not even Kanye, any artist. No one does a $20 student ticket. It's $140. Come see me, or look for it on people, or look for people's phone versions on YouTube and their stories. Right? Like, if you want to see me, I shouldn't be like, you know, like today I won't go to a restaurant. I'll just go see Farooque Bhai. Like, even
And then people say that artists, why don't artists make money, right? Because you're not willing to pay the same amount you
yeah,
pay for
and
a
and
cheeseburger.
I wouldn't devalue myself. Wait a minute,
And I
until
think
unless
the one thing you mentioned is that you sometimes charge irrationally. I don't think it's irrational because it, your value is what people have agreed to pay you. So if
yeah,
somebody's agreeing to pay you, I don't know, like $10 million, and you're worth that much, right? Because somebody's agreed to pay you for that
yeah,
amount. So I think it's what you've actually mentioned are really good gems for artists to actually value themselves. But also, I think self awareness is important as well. I think if you instead of 1,000 taka, if you said, oh, it has to be 20,000 taka or something like that, like for entry, I don't think you would have many people. You could do that, but I think it's just being self aware is that who is my audience, what do I want to be valued as, and
yeah,
then sticking to it rather than just throwing up crazy numbers just because you think you're a big deal. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So, so I think there's a fine balance for creators as well. But what you've just said is so true because musicians don't make money because we eat the burgers and we don't listen to the music.
yeah, man. Like apparently the guy or like one of the people I performed with for this time, he was like, "Hi, how can I charge so much? People see 5 bands for $300. How can I ask them to see one band for a thousand
And
bucks
that's
or
the thing,
something?"
like because if you start doing that, and
Mhm.
like then it's not that your value should be 300 taka, their value should be 5,000 taka then because you know what I mean, like because there's more bands performing, therefore it should be
Exactly.
more.
Yeah.
So it's like, and it's crazy, like over the last 10 years I think the price of the ticket has been the same. Like
Only
I
thing in Bangladesh.
only
The only thing in Bangladesh.
everything
Price
else
of concert
is
ticket.
going off the roof, but the prices of a like a concert, I think it's still the same as I would have paid, 12 years back when I was going to shows there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where do you find inspirations for songs? I know you mentioned that you listen to certain genres and you're interested in certain things, but do you think it's harder to make songs when you're at a good spot in life?
Not necessarily. No, I don't think that way because like I write from multiple different perspectives and like I have multiple different ways of songwriting. I don't think that way because like one of the things about my next EP is these are songs I made during the quarantine and yeah, like I have three songs coming up. Pallavi,
Oh,
first song.
So good.
And like
So good.
Pallavi was inspired like by like that Miles era, and I wanted to make like like a
Neela, Jadoo, all that kind of feel.
like a satirical, like a funny, like Pallavi tumi januni, amar chokhe tumi upuhar, something like that. But because I had just watched Anando Mela or something, the show where the older crowd and the
Mukeeb Khan
90s
and
rock,
yeah,
no,
Anisul
they all
Haq.
come.
Yeah.
Now, so I was never into that genre that deep because I started with underground Bangla music. So when I saw that, I was like, man, this is like quirky but cool, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to make a song like that. That's why I made Pallavi. The lyrics are so like simple,
Yeah.
like lovey-dovey. And then when I heard the beat, I was like, man, I could turn this into a neo soul track. And I always wanted to listen to like Bangla neo soul,
Yeah.
kind of neo pop soul pop. I wouldn't call it neo soul
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
all from a technical perspective, but like it has the elements to
Yeah.
it. And I found the beat. I was like, this is it. I love this beat. I bought the beat of the South Korean guy, bought out the exclusive rights, and I just recorded it at home. And then the next track is Antakshari. There's this amazing artist in Bangladesh, Sharib. He was
Oh,
at
of
York
course.
University in Toronto,
Sharif Hashimi.
Sharif Hashmi. And I went over to his place and he showed me like, oh, I wrote this beat. I think you'll like it. And I listened to it. I was like, oh, it's an amazing beat. I'm not vibing to it. And then he's like, oh, I have another one. And he played it. And I had already written Antakshari, like, because I love the lyrics and I really had a lot of fun writing it. And I was really inspired by like Oprah's Bank Account, the song by Lil Yachty and
All right.
Drake.
Yep.
And so when I heard the beat, I was like, oh man, this is the perfect beat. And then that worked out. And then Amar Priyo, I wrote this song in a random Bengali boys jam with people that I met like once and then we never jammed again. Like, why not? Like, sometimes you try this initiative, but it doesn't
Yes.
work out. And like, I met a bunch of like random, like, not random, Bangladeshi musicians here যারা আমার সাথে বাজায় না Farooque Bhai Project এ.
Yeah.
And we একবারই jam করতে গেছিলাম somewhere when I first moved to Toronto. And then randomly in that jam, I wrote like, or I started singing like Amar Priyo, Shara Dio, Amake, Lokhir Khio, Amar Priyo, Shathe Nio, Amake, Buenos Aires, Theke Rio, De Janeiro, Amar Priyo. And I was like, yo, this is so cool. So I don't know, out of nowhere, after 4 years during the pandemic, this just like popped back in my head. And I was
Wow.
like, yo, I should work with Amar Priyo. I think that had legs. And then I found this beat that I really liked. And it's so sad because when it comes, I think it's a banger. I love it. Fun fact, I sent this track to Tasan Bhai once because we spoke about collaborating, but
Yeah.
I know he's a busy guy and it didn't happen. And it's turned out to be a blessing for that track because like I like how my voice sounds. Like,
Right.
it's like at that point it was like I'm getting to do it with one of my idols. But
Yeah.
I'm glad that I hope it still happens, and I'm glad that it's not this track.
Right.
So with Amar Priyo too, like the same thing happened. It's like I wrote these tracks, all different stories, and I put them together because I feel like it's just nice. It sounds nice sounding little bite-sized DP.
Yeah.
But for the next DP after that I'm trying to write, so this one's gonna be called Halkar Upor Jhapsha, and the next one I don't know the name yet, but I'm probably gonna call it Sunday Monday Close, based on like something I heard in a Bangla movie once. It's like,
Right.
Deep Jal said, to Sunday Monday close kore তুমি. And like I always try to keep it to 3 words. আমার সব গান EP,
Right.
কিন্তু it's very
These
intentional.
references are amazing. I think like just the fact that, as I mentioned, like you've picked all these inspirations from different areas and different moments, and it goes to show that you don't have to have certain life experiences or really upset or really in a terrible place to come up with good art.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, the only example I always choose, like, because I talk about, say, the Clive Kamina and stuff. That's not really 100% of my life, It's like a fantasized version of like
Yeah,
my
and
life.
the thing is, this
And
life exists in Dhaka, right? I think we all have either been through it, or we've heard about it, or we've heard about friends through this life. So it's incredible. Yeah,
yeah, and like, listen, man, like when I'm writing a song, it's not my personal diary. I'm
yeah,
a storyteller.
yeah.
Like, I'm really
You're kind of
inspired by like
building these
Adbhut
worlds.
Chelity
Yeah,
and how like Shumon Bhai built out the story in Adbhut Shei Cheliti.
Yeah.
I think Adbhut Shei Cheliti 2 is the one I listen to the most.
Yeah.
And like I love how he built out this story and like about this guy's life and
Mm-hmm.
like Jo Chunai Ojana Pot Chola. So and I was a huge Bibarton fan, like the album growing up. So I
Good
was like,
album.
I'm a storyteller. Like it doesn't always have to be like I wrote Hate Tojbi because this happened in my life or Shikal Chira because I saw this. Like
Yeah.
এগুলো
Yeah.
ছাড়াও I'm a storyteller too, right? As a musician. So it's just that, like it doesn't always have to come from a dark place or a
Yeah.
life experience. It can just come from your observations or even like your fantasies and your like it can be fictional and
Yeah.
it's fine.
Talk to me about creative block. Do you go through it at all? And if you do, what do you do to get out of it?
I just do different things. I don't take set a timeline. যে 3 মাসের মধ্যে বের হইতে হবে. I need to get out of the creative block in 3 months. Like I don't put any timeline. Last time I went through a creative block is because like the entire pandemic, I was just listening to like the same music, and it never happens like even if it's like 10 genres, then I'm listening to the exact same 10 genres for like 2 years straight. Like it
Yeah.
never happens. So that was definitely turning into a creative block. Like the album that's coming Sunday, Monday close, that one's again like because I when I listen to Afropop, I need to listen to like five Afropop tracks at the same time, at least. And it's all have the same beat.
Right.
So in Sunday, Monday, close to, or whatever I'm gonna call that EP after the next one, I'm gonna have a lot of like J Balvin inspirations, Wizkid inspirations. So that beat's gonna be there for almost all the songs,
Right.
and that's like an intentional decision. I've not even gone into the studio, but I already know
Right.
it's gonna happen. So I forgot what the question was. Sorry.
The creative, like, how do you get out of creative blocks?
Oh, creative block. So after like listening to the same music for like months and months and years, I was like the creative block obviously set in, and I was like, okay, what can I do? So I bought a DJ machine and I started to learn how to DJ. I'm pretty good at it now, by the way. I'm going to debut this summer in Toronto
Oh,
somewhere.
damn. Should be cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably go for DJ Kamina.
It's a nice name.
Yeah, and yeah, thanks, man. So so I started DJing, and that helped me get out of my creative block, really. Just doing something completely different, something that I haven't tried before, something I haven't experienced before. And it got me into deep house and stuff, and
Right.
I'm really enjoying deep house, funk, even like it's a this DJ called Folamore. Absolutely love him. There's like say Frank Moody and like Chanel Trey or Channel
Mm.
Tres, Jite Hook. Like there's a lot of really funky guys who have funky bass lines and like deep house tracks. Like
Yeah.
I'm loving it. Like, and
Um,
that's I'm getting
with
out of the creative block.
do you have certain routine that you have around music or crafting music? Like, how we had have like rewaj or anything of that sort,
Yeah.
where singers would do that every morning to keep that be at their peak level. Do you have anything of that sort with your creative elements?
Yeah, I do. I don't have much, but I do have some. Like when I was younger, I would probably uh try to write almost every morning. Like
Wow.
younger will they even like before the first TP and stuff like that. After the first TP too, when I was writing my second DP that I ditched. But even now, I feel like almost all my songs are written in that 1 hour before I start work.
Right.
So that's my
And I
thing.
think
Like
that
I write my songs there and I refine my songs in the sauna, funnily.
that
When I
it,
go to the
it's it's awesome because I honestly believe that if you didn't have that practice of writing every day, your songs wouldn't come to you an hour before recording.
uh, and
I
you have to
think
go through a lot of garbage songs to find a gem. You
exactly,
can't
exactly. I
expect
mean
everything you
that's why
write to be an
repetition is
amazing.
so important when you're creating.
Yeah,
It's just
absolutely,
incredible.
man.
That's a great insight. Who do you think are killing it in Bangladesh music right now?
Different people in different ways. If you look at jazz, Imran Ahmed Trio, and how they're even working with Arnov and stuff.
Yeah,
Someone like Arnov who keeps innovating, like with the Coke Studio
Cook
coming up, it's
Studio.
going to be amazing.
Yeah, can't wait.
By the time this comes out, the Coke Studio has come out and it's
Yeah,
amazing. Future
I'm
tense.
sure. If you listen to it right now,
uh,
I'm sure another tab. So
yeah, absolutely. And then this Damir, obviously my bro, my brother from another mother. And there's another guy,
yes,
Zunaid Nur Chaudhary. He's gonna be off, I think, the similar subgenre, and he's also absolutely amazing. Absolutely. And then like in the rap scene, there's so many
oh
guys coming up. Like
man, incredible
I don't
team.
want to like I'm just scratching the surface, but two of the most recent ones, I think, that are killing it. One is Dirt Gang, and they have their own like vibe, like Dirt Gang, and they're like punk,
Very
trap,
underground,
rock.
very. It's I think this little peep
So good.
influence. There's that a lot of the XXX influence as well. Oh, that's what it sounded like to me anyway.
Exactly, they're amazing. And ওদের সাথে there's also 1230 Classic.
Oh mate, there. I think we spoke about it on
So
Insta.
good.
Um, the Marathuk song. I don't want to say the second word in the podcast, but
Madarchod is the second word, okay, guys?
that is the second word. And I'm not going to beep that out, but that song is definitely my favorite. And I think what a, what's awesome about that like that group is it just feels very raw and authentic. I think a lot of the things about with hip hop in general, I think if you don't come off as authentic and if you're putting on a show, people people can tell, right? And I think Kendrick is Kendrick because he's talking about his hardships, and Eminem is Eminem because he's talking about his life and everything. And I think like 1230 Classic comes off as people of the from Dhaka, like it they have that culture, the subculture that they've built, and you can tell it's very
Absolutely.
authentic.
Yeah, man, 100%. And there's those guys, and there's so many different scenes coming up. There's DJs coming up in Bangladesh, apart from like, the
DJ Kamina,
mainstream DJing. DJ Kamina's coming up. My friend Hasib, Asir, a lot of these guys are DJing. Like my friends would put on like Italo disco 70s
oh
themed DJ sets in Dhaka, and that's sick. Like even RC Bhai, DJ Arslan, or I don't know, I think he just calls himself RC.
right,
So good. Like I played with him at the Westin show. So good. So there's that part of the scene that's coming up. There's rock bands. I don't want to go into names in rock bands because, like, everyone knows the rock aspect usually.
yeah,
Uh, but there's just an unbelievable array of talent that's coming up. There's people like the people of diaspora are doing really good.
yeah,
Diaspora scene has been more lit than ever.
so
But I
true.
think one band that always goes under the radar, and they don't have to kill it right now. But anyone who hasn't, paid proper attention should pay attention to is Lokhi Tera. Just remember, Lokhi
Oh
Tera is
mate,
Farooque Bhai's favorite Bangla band. That's a lot, okay? If you're my fan,
Look is they only had the one album, isn't it? From they're from the UK. The ensemble from the
definitely.
UK.
Yeah.
I forgot her. Sohini Alam, I think, was the singer.
Yeah.
She had such a phenomenal. They did this version of the national anthem, which was just
Yeah.
beautiful.
Exactly, exactly. They have a few offshoots, like Sohini Alam, I think she also has Kyo. Her two
Wait, I
projects
think
is
I might be
Kyo and
confusing with
Lokitara.
Kyo. Right, right,
And
right,
and 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 then they also, I think, play for Shikar Bangla All Stars or Shikar All Stars.
right.
And that's a phenomenal offshoot too. And then
Yeah.
recently, one of my friends in Dhaka showed me uh, how some of their songs have like dub version. They have a dub EP with like Rongir Dunia or something,
Mm.
and then they also have dub versions of some of their more Afro-Cuban stuff. And it's so cool. They experiment so much with sounds. And like if anyone says, what's your, I don't know if it's in your questions, but what's your dream collaboration? Like Lokhi Terra, like
Mm.
100%. Oh my God. Just being in a studio with like musicians of that caliber that are so tasteful, at least for my palette of music, like oh my God, like so
It's like
good.
they especially coming from the UK, they had that world music influence, that whole world music genre that they had like in the UK
Exactly.
back in the mid 90s and late 90s. And also I could hear a lot of like 07 kind of influences in their songs. So I think I mean those who are into a lot of these bands would be able to understand what I'm talking about. But that's cool, man. What's the future of music in Bangladesh, do you think?
The future is more free than ever, and hopefully the future is of a less boro bhai culture and just letting people be themselves If they want to have face stats, let them have face stats. If they want their song to be Marathok Madarchot, let them do that. Like, it's like make sure everyone can celebrate their individuality rather than confining to someone else's perspective of cool just to fit into society or just because they're going to be shamed or something if they're not a certain way. Like, as long as we have unique individuals coming up with unique sounds, we're in good hands. And I think that has started happening. And I hope that's the trajectory that we take forward into the future.
So in line with that, what's your goal in the next 5 years?
I don't know, keep making music. The dream scenario is to spread within South Asia to the world. I think I have the music has the potential to reach the world, and I have like a lot of foreign friends that listen to my music, and they say we don't even get the lyrics, but the music is just so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's. I hope it reaches the world, and then the world can make their own decisions. I hope to be a more desi Spotify playlists. I hope not just the Bangladeshi ones and the covers of Bangladeshi ones. I hope I grow to at least be able to showcase my music to different people. And they can have their own judgments after that. And like, I hope I can keep making music, and I hope like me and my family we stay healthy because that's like so important to like do
So
anything
true.
creative. Like,
Finally, for someone who wants to walk the path of Farooque Bhai, what are three or whatever amount of numbers you can think of steps that they can take, or actionable steps?
absolutely, uh, work hard. That's the first step. Work hard. Reverse engineer the things you like to find out why you like the things you like, not because you have to make things that way, but in case you're making songs, just try to come from a unique lens and then think of why you like what you like to add those little nuances to your music, because that's what I do. Also, most of the lyrics you write the first time will sound like stuff you've heard. So, in a lot of cases. So, sit there, don't fall in love with your craft, iterate, 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 be hard on yourself, like, at least be critical of yourself
Yeah.
and just constantly think. What I always ask myself, and it's super important, two tips, life hacks that I'll tell you guys about. One is I always listen to my music before release, and I think if it was a random person's song, not my friend, no one, if it was a random guy's song, would I listen to it twice? Not just to give it another chance because it's my friends, but if it was a random person's song, would I listen to it twice? Does the song have that, does it pique my attention, or does it like pique my interest, essentially? So that's one thing. And the second thing that I always remember is, if you write a song and the melody is playing in your head, that's a song worth keeping, like the next day or something. If you write a song and you have to listen to the melody in your phone and you have to remember the lyrics from your notes, that should probably go to the trash can. So,
Awesome.
that's who
Cool.
I am.
Well, Farooque Bhai, Issa, thanks for your time.
G
This
Bhai.
was really awesome. I want to do another one of these where we just break down Kamina in our video, but
Yeah.
we'll probably do that some other time. By then it'll probably be DJ Kamina, so it'll be a nice kind of touch to the whole thing.
Karle mushkil jeena, DJ Kamina
We've already got your
aaye.
intro sorted. All right, man. It was awesome. Hope you stay well, and we'll touch base soon.
Yeah, man. Hope you stay well too.
Bro.
Fam for
Evening,
life.
evening, whenever.